This week on the Business of Tech, some positive news for the labor market recovery as the March jobs report shows encouraging signs. However, it's not all good news as we reveal an alarming number of companies pressuring employees to cover up data breaches. We'll also dive into the world of AI with updates on regulation, congressional investigations, open source debates, and ChatGPT adoption. In addition, we'll introduce you to the Managed Services Association of America and highlight the National Telecommunications and Information Administration's call for public comments on AI accountability measures, plus a cookbook for offering services in the world of AI, updates on Microsoft's new cloud PC option for frontline workers, and LinkedIn's introduction of a free identity verification system. And we'll discuss the new guidance on zero trust models, an AI-powered password cracking tool, and SMB security spending trends. All these stories and more. Hit those like, subscribe, and the notification bell and help us pay the bills. And here are this week's stories. Want to start the week off with good news. The March jobs data was released on Friday and it's good. Quoting Axios. Employers are adding jobs at a healthy but more moderate pace. New workers are re-entering the labor force in strong numbers, helping meet the demand for staff. As a result, wage gains are normalizing in a way that's consistent with the Federal Reserve's inflation target. If sustained, this not too hot, not too cold labor market could lead to an economy that resembles more the environment of 2019, with healthy job market, with steady job growth and low inflation, rather than the strange hothouse of 2021 and 2022. Payrolls rose by 236,000 last month, more than needed to keep up with the labor force growth, but well below the breakneck pace of hiring. And this segment? But for yet another month, workers came off the sidelines. Last month, the labor force grew by 480,000 workers. That is, about 500,000 more Americans either got a job or were looking for one. That's on top of the roughly 419,000 who did so in February. And finally, 81% of Americans in their prime working years are employed, the highest number since May 2001, according to the latest jobs report from Friday. Why do we care? Saying people don't want to work these days is simply untrue. The data doesn't bear it out. If you're having trouble hiring, complaining about people not wanting to work now is lazy and wrong. You'll need another solution. There's also a lot here. As I think about my 2023 predictions, I was predicting a bumpy ride. Maybe I was right for the wrong reasons. Turns out it may be bumpy because it's a bit more uneven than we might like, with a heavy layer of noise on top of it. Looking like 2019 sounds pretty good to me. Choosing to be optimistic also becomes part of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Optimism doesn't mean you don't plan, it does drive attitude. Well, let's go right to VentureBeat. Quote, new research released by cybersecurity vendor Bitdefender today surveyed over 400 IT and security professionals who work in companies with 1,000 or more employees. Bitdefender found that 42% of IT and security professionals surveyed had been told to keep breaches confidential, i.e. cover them up, when they should have been reported. Perhaps even more shockingly, 29.9% of respondents admitted to actually keeping a breach confidential instead of reporting it. This research highlights that an alarming number of organizations are willing to ignore their obligations to report data breaches to regulators and customers in an attempt to avoid legal and financial penalties. So why are so many tech leaders pressuring their staff to bury data breaches? The answer is that the cybersecurity threat landscape is becoming more and more demanding, with 52% of organizations experiencing a data breach within the last 12 months. This, as cyber also becomes more of a priority for companies at the board level. According to a Wall Street Journal survey released last month, more than 3/4 of board directors say their board has at least one cyber expert. Why do we care? Have you considered and prepared for your response if a customer asked you to cover up an incident? What about if you found an employee has? This isn't purely an intellectual exercise. 42% being asked to cover up a breach is shockingly high, with almost a third doing it. In any sizable customer base, you'll be asked. And having your answers ahead of time is the only sure way to handle this. The AI news is shifting. We've moved from rapid-fire product announcements to predictions and regulations. Let's hit that regulation area first. India's Ministry of Electronics and IT said last week that they do not plan to regulate the growth of AI within the South Asian market, identifying the sector as strategic and significant as an area for the nation. The ministry asserted that the expansion of AI would have a kinetic effect on entrepreneurship and business development in India. Meanwhile, the Washington Post dives into Congress's willingness to investigate AI regulation. The thesis is that lawmakers, burned by not regulating social media prior, are looking to not fall into the same trap. The Center for AI and Digital Policy asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate OpenAI for violating consumer protection rules, arguing that the organization's rollout of AI text generation tools has been, quote, biased, deceptive, and a risk to public safety. On the technology front, there's another debate: open source large language models versus their closed source competitors. VentureBeat dives into options like DALL-E, based on Alpaca, another open source LLM, or Meta's offerings in the open source world with Llama by making their weights available for researchers and academics, or names like Vicuna and Koala. Because the adoption continues to drive. A new survey from WordFinder finds that when asked how often they use ChatGPT, 46% said they used it only once or twice. Out of the rest, 10% use it several times a month, 20% use it once a week, 19% use it several times a week, and 5% use it daily. More than half of the people in each age group use ChatGPT regularly, at least several times a month, with baby boomers at 54%, Gen X at 51%, millennials at 55%, and Gen Z at 61%. Those in the tech field are the biggest users of ChatGPT, with 62% of them using it regularly. Some 59% of healthcare workers and 56% of those in marketing also use it regularly. Less frequent users included people in construction at 51%, those in business services at 50%, and those in education at 50%. And if you want to explore some of the impacts, I've included a link to a Vice article about Reddit mods fighting ChatGPT content. Shocking no one, it's already a significant problem. Why do we care? I'm somewhat skeptical of Congress's ability to act here, although I wish they would. Privacy laws would go a very long way. Now, I noted that the AI group filed because of the who they filed with, the FTC. There's an existing framework that's likely to be applicable, and while it's to be tested in the courts, let's look there for guidance. Those adoption numbers continue to impress. More than anything, that's why to note what's happening. Does coordinating meetings and help desk calls frustrate you and frustrate your clients? Wouldn't it be easier if you could automate this process and it integrated with ConnectWise Manage or with Autotask? TimeZest is scheduling automation that gives you control of your schedule and removes the frustration of calendar ping pong. As the only solution specifically designed for MSPs, it integrates with your PSA to schedule appointments right in your workflow. And the best part? You can try it for free. Visit timezest.com/MSP Radio and mention MSP Radio for 10% off your first year of TimeZest. I had spotted this group too, and Channel EDE talked with them. The Managed Service Provider Association of America, or MSPAA. Quoting the piece, MSPAA, based in Boulder, Colorado, was founded by Jave Jost, Jooste, the president and owner of a security-focused technology consulting company called Cyber Tech Connection. Juice told Channel ED that the organization officially launched in January 2023 and then had a presence at the 2023 MSP Expo event where he said it got a high level of interest from MSPs. The organization announced its formal launch with 350 plus members on March 30th. Like many other companies and organizations founded by MSPs, MSPAA was created to fill a hole that Juice perceived in the market. While there are professional organizations for doctors and lawyers, there wasn't one for MSPs, and Juice thought there should be. MSPAA was born out of his desire to professionalize the industry and give potential customers somewhere to go to verify their potential MSPs before signing on with them. A central feature is the organization's website, which allows potential customers to search for a managed service provider. Why do we care? Dave Juiced must not have Google, because several organizations exist trying to fill this hole he perceived in the market, including CompTIA, MSP Alliance, and the NSITSP. Thus, the real purpose here is that public directory. That's what I wanted to focus on. On the organization's website, registering an MSP goes right to a page that offers all MSPs under this plan have targeted marketing for their geographic location. This sounds like a collective sales organization, especially as they list vendor discounts. And that's why we care. This effort looks a lot different from the others. I spotted this pair of stories in Axios. First, quote, office space available for lease in the US is at a record high. Remote work is already crushing the office market, and the data is a sign that the distress is going to get worse. Vacancies already at historic highs will likely go higher. In detail, looking at office availability is different from looking at office vacancy rates. Availability doesn't just look at empty offices. It includes occupied office space where the tenant notified the landlord they won't be renewing. The percentage of office space available for lease is at 16.4% and increasing fast. But let's wrap some perspective too. Quote, market watchers were spooked by Federal Reserve data showing that the holders of commercial real estate loans are a highly concentrated group, with small and regional U.S. banks, those not in the top 25, collectively holding 67%. Under the hood, the situation is more nuanced, as detailed in two reports from the Mortgage Banker Association and Moody's Analytics. The 67% figure includes loans backed by traditional commercial real estate, apartment complexes, office buildings, and real estate, but it also includes construction loans, loans backing farmland, or loans to owner-occupied properties like two-family houses. Why do we care? Why do we care about office space? Two reasons. It will be garbage for companies to push employees back to the office if there aren't offices to go back to. Look to lease commitments to speak to an organization's commitment, so I'd ask customers about their leases and track that data. Second, there are all the related industries around office space to consider the impact to. That's a market that's changing, and in that change is the opportunity. There are pitfalls here for sure. One can make lemonade out of lemons if you're aware. Channelnomics has released its 2023 Channel Forecast Report. Channel partners have continued with their efforts to increase recurring revenue by accelerating their expansion into cloud and managed services. In 2023, a majority of partners plan to invest in new or existing managed services at 69%, partner with service providers to deliver cloud or application services, 69%, expand the marketing of existing products and services, 68%, and increase their professional service capabilities and capacity at 65%. The share of vendors expecting meaningful yearly revenue growth of more than 5% is at a 4-year high. Vendors are more bullish about near-term growth than channel partners, a switch from 2022. And for the first time since 2020, the percentage of vendors that have reduced their budgets, 16%, or left them unchanged, 45%, is greater than the percentage that has increased them, 39%. And while I'm talking about channel dynamics, demand for PCs fell 29% year over year in Q1 2023, according to IDC data. The market research firm found that global shipments of desktops, notebooks, and workstations reached 56.9 million in Q1, down from 80.2 million in Q1 2022. More important to me is the insight offered into why. IDC doesn't expect the market to rebound fully until 2024, when many aging devices will be due for a refresh. However, the report said that recovery might be slow if recession concerns spill over into next year. Quote, if the economy is trending upwards by then, we expect significant market upside as consumers look to refresh, schools seek to replace worn-down Chromebooks, and businesses move to Windows 11. Lin Wang, Research VP of Devices and Displays at IDC, said in the report. And finally, one more bit. In the next 5 years, small and medium businesses will prioritize infrastructure, managed services, and security spending as part of a business growth push, according to a report from Analysys Mason. SMBs, companies with less than 1,000 employees, are expected to increase IT spending over the coming years as economic worries subside. Companies in this category will increase IT spending by 5.4% this year, roughly in line with Gartner's prediction of enterprise spending growth of 5.5%. According to the report, companies in the SMB category are expected to steadily increase their technology budgets each year to reach 8.3% year-on-year growth by 2027. Why do we care? Telling the story here, SMB customers are anticipated to grow in line with their enterprise counterparts on spending. That's good news, and it's aligning with what customers expect and what they expect to buy. The delay in spending on equipment makes sense. Interestingly, the one data point that isn't aligning is the reduction in vendor budgets. They're trying to do more with less, it seems. Expect them to be more challenging to deal with, even though customer demand isn't the problem. I wanted to make this one its own story, not part of an AI roundup. Quoting Engadget. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA, is asking for public comments on possible regulations that hold AI creators accountable. The measures will ideally help the Biden administration ensure that these models work as promised, quote, without causing harm, the NTIA says. While the request is open-ended, the NTIA suggests input on areas like incentives for trustworthy AI, safety testing methods, and the amount of data access needed to assess systems. The agency is also wondering if different strategies might be necessary for certain fields, such as healthcare. Comments are open on the AI accountability measure until June 10th. Why do we care? Well, this is the time to ensure your discussions with customers are captured and sent on as feedback to the NTIA. They want the information you have from the field. Now is the time to provide that information, rather than complain later about the regulations conflicting with customer needs. Do your part. I mentioned the Italian government's ban on OpenAI earlier in the week. Let's follow up now that we know what those demands are. Quoting TechCrunch, OpenAI will have to get transparent and publish an information notice detailing its data processing. It must immediately adopt age gating to prevent minors from accessing the tech and move to more robust age verification measures. It needs to clarify the legal basis it's claiming for processing people's data for training its AI and cannot rely on performance of a contract, meaning it has to choose between consent or legitimate interests. It also has to prove ways for users and non-users to exercise rights over their personal data, including asking for corrections of disinformation generated about them by ChatGPT, or else have their data deleted. It must also provide users with an ability to object to OpenAI's processing of their data for training its algorithms, and it must conduct a local awareness campaign to inform Italians that it's processing their information to train its AIs. OpenAI has established a partnership with BugCrowd and is asking for ethical hackers to find vulnerabilities, and they can be eligible for winnings up to $20,000 in a jackpot. And while thinking about the dangers of AI, I want to highlight some thinking by Casey Newton at Platformer. He identifies three areas of concern. First, powerful AIs running on laptops. Two, social platforms becoming spammed on a massive scale. And three, deep-faked, non-consensual nudes. I want to highlight a piece by Vice about overemployed workers, those working more than one job. One of the latest ways to do this? Leveraging ChatGPT. Here's a key paragraph. In such moments, it can feel like the AI-infused overemployed community is taking advantage of a brief moment in time when the tools that can be used to automate a job are much better understood by the workforce than the bosses with hiring and firing ability. One person who works multiple jobs in information technology spoke openly about the tension that created. People can more easily hold down multiple jobs today, but should the bosses realize just how much their jobs can be handled by robots, they could be at risk of their jobs being automated away. As a result, he said, there's good reason to keep quiet about what they've discovered. And before you think Amazon isn't in this race, the company has released its own offerings. Amazon Bedrock makes foundation models for text and images available from partners, including AI21 Labs, Anthropic, and Stability AI. Amazon is also releasing its Titan foundation models, making 2 large language models available as an AWS service. And finally, it's made generally available Code Whisperer, an AI-assisted tool for programmers similar to Microsoft's GitHub Copilot. And a piece in the news stack got my attention for positive reasons, offering insights into using ChatGPT with your company data. They offer 2 methodologies. First, fine-tune ChatGPT against your own dataset. And second, leveraging prompt engineering with your database. You keep all your company data in a single database. When a user puts in a prompt, you match it against your company data in the database, find similar results to the user prompt, modify the prompt, and then run it through the model. Why do we care? That last article is a cookbook for service offerings. Most customers will be looking to their technology provider to help. I'm going to be dismissive of the overemployed red herring. Despite always being a concern, the real insight is precisely what those workers understand. If AI can automate the job away, that's the real insight, not the potential employees who found a window of opportunity, a window that will close. Because it's the services opportunity to transform work that's far more interesting, and the potential to put that power everywhere. Both Newton's and Italy's concerns are a thoughtful lens to apply. Being ready with insights about these concerns will separate those who excel at this new technology and those who may just ride the wave. Not to say either option is terrible. My quiet around security couldn't last long. First, from NextGov. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency published updated guidance for its Zero Trust Maturity Model on Tuesday, more than a year after the nation's cyber defense agency issued an initial set of best practices and guidelines to evaluate security capabilities and identify areas for improvement. Changes included the addition of an initial maturity state within the model, which accounts for the second stage of an agency's zero trust adoption process and includes steps like starting automation of attribute assignment and configuration of lifecycles, policy decisions, and enforcement, as well as others. Cybersecurity firm Home Security Heroes put an AI-powered password cracking tool called Passcan to the test against 15 million plus passwords. It cracked 51% of them in under a minute. It had worked out 81% of the list by month's end. And thinking about the whole space, TechIsle's new research shows that the SMB and mid-market spend on IT security will likely be $84.2 billion in 2023, an increase of 9.6% from 2022. IT security is the second top priority for SMBs and first priority for core mid-market and upper mid-market firms. Between 55% and 54% of firms consider preventing cyber attacks a priority. Interestingly, that's somewhat in conflict with data reported in Axios. A CNBC survey released in the fall of 2021 found that 56% of small business owners were not concerned about being the victim of a hack in the next 12 months. Additionally, 59% said they could quickly resolve a cyber attack, and 42% had no plan for responding to an attack. And so I've noted the continuation of the trend. Guards, that's with a Z, launched a security platform that includes cyber insurance coverage and automated remediation plans. Why do we care? I'm most interested in the zero trust guidance, particularly as including an initial stage allows for an easier on-ramp for small organizations. That rings true to where I want us to spend our attention. I also wanted to highlight this perception gap between those in our space and those outside. Every channel type constantly talks about security as the biggest thing. Yet when I step outside that bubble, that isn't what I hear. That disconnect is why I remain convinced that, while necessary, security can't be the lead story and isn't the whole thing. In my good, better, best model, it just can't get out of being an expense and thus living in the good. I didn't want this one to get lost in the shuffle. Microsoft has announced changes to their cloud PC options. Windows 365 Frontline is a new offering designed for frontline, shift, and part-time workers to offer businesses more flexibility in purchasing cloud PC licenses. The company is also expanding the way it's used them, including now via LG's new 2023 smart TVs, and with plans for older models just to be able to install the Windows 365 app on the TV. The company is also bringing an enhanced Windows 365 experience to Android devices. Why do we care? I remain intrigued by the idea of delivering computing power to workers just when they need it. This idea of a cloud PC for work resonates. Microsoft continues to invest here, and I didn't want to miss it. Microsoft, with all the new news today, as LinkedIn is rolling out a free verification system to prove users' identities, as well as where they work. The verification options include using Clear to prove your identity, verifying your workplace through an email address, and using Microsoft's Entra Verified ID platform to obtain digital workplace IDs for free. Yes, this will be free, and users can verify their workplace just by using a company-issued email address or through Microsoft Entra if your organization already uses Entra. LinkedIn will highlight verifications with a green and blue check on profiles. Why do we care? There's a coming battle over identity on the internet, and the noise over blue check marks on the Bird app is not where the action will be. Microsoft and LinkedIn are quietly building an internet identity system. I may not know exactly where it's going, but I've been watching for this for more than a decade. Thanks for watching this week in the Business of Tech. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPRadio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this show, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary podcast, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue subscribe button. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all of them, and I look forward to talking to you next time.